All right, welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're diving into the absolute core of what makes businesses, well, businesses.
Yeah, and you've given us some really fantastic material to work with here.
We're going to be breaking down those crucial roles that customers and competitors play in the business world.
Exactly. Why is understanding your customers like taking the pulse of your business?
And how does the competitive landscape around you actually shape every single decision that you make?
That's what we're going to find out.
And if you're out there and you want to get a good grip on these ideas without getting lost in a sea of jargon,
Then you've come to the right place.
this deep dive is designed for just that.
Absolutely.
All right, let's jump right into it. Let's start by unpacking this whole idea of the power of the customer.
Yeah, at the very heart of it, a business exists to serve its customers,
Right.
the people who are actually buying the goods or services.
They're the ones paying the bills.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And, their basic expectation is pretty straightforward.
Okay, what's that?
They want good quality, right?
Okay.
Of course. And they want it at a competitive price.
Makes sense.
Think of customers as the fuel, if you will.
Oh, okay, I like that.
That powers any business.
Yeah.
Without them actually buying what you're selling, the engine just sputters out.
It's like no fuel, no go.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's not just about getting them in the door that one time, right?
No, absolutely not.
Businesses need those customers to keep coming back again and again.
You want them to be repeat customers.
Right, so meeting their needs, making sure they're getting the right products, the right services at the right time.
That is critical.
Yeah, that feels really, really important. It's like you're building a relationship, right?
It is. That's a great way to put it.
You got to nurture that.
Absolutely. And a key part of any good relationship is solid communication, or in this case, good service.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So those high levels of customer service, they aren't just like a nice thing to do.
Right.
They actually directly lead to having more satisfied customers. And happier customers, well, they're more likely to become loyal customers.
Of course, because they're happy with the experience.
They'll spread the good word,
Word of mouth.
Exactly, and they'll come back for more.
It's a win-win.
Yeah, it's a beautiful cycle.
It really is. Now, something that really jumped out from the sources we're looking at is that today's customer, it's not just an individual buyer anymore.
Right.
They're a force to be reckoned with in the wider environment.
They are a powerful force.
It's about more than just that one single transaction.
Absolutely.
It's about the collective impact of all those customers together.
Absolutely. Businesses really have to consider the bigger picture now.
Right.
What are the desires and expectations of consumers as a whole?
Okay.
And they have to factor that in when they're making plans.
Makes sense.
Because today's consumers, they are a lot more astute, they're better informed, and they are definitely more willing to speak up.
Yeah, they're not shy.
They're not shy at all.
They know their rights.
They know their rights, and they'll seek remedies if they feel like they've been let down or treated unfairly.
Right, and we've all seen how fast a bad review or a bad experience can spread online.
Oh, absolutely, like wildfire.
It's crazy. So it sounds like consistently delivering high-quality products and services, it's not just a good practice anymore.
No.
It's essential for a business to survive in the long term.
It's fundamental.
Really is.
If you're consistently offering poor quality, you're just not going to hold on to customers.
Right.
And it's not a static landscape either.
Yeah.
What consumers want and need, it's constantly shifting.
You got to be on your toes.
Businesses have to stay in tune,
Be aware.
assess those changing tastes, and adapt to meet them.
It's like this constant dance.
It's a feedback loop.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Now, one of the biggest shifts that we're seeing, according to what you've given us, is this growing demand for businesses to step up and be environmentally responsible.
That's a big one.
It's not just about the product or the service itself anymore, is it?
No.
People are making buying decisions based on the company's environmental impact.
That's right. They want clean, green, safe options.
No, that's becoming a priority for a lot of people.
It's a big shift. Consumers are really factoring in a business's environmental footprint,
Yeah.
and they're using that to decide where they spend their money.
So it's really having an impact on the bottom line.
It is.
So we're seeing a greater demand for things like recycling programs, right?
Absolutely.
Environmentally friendly packaging, reducing those factory emissions.
Right.
It's like a whole new set of priorities for a huge part of the market.
That's a big segment.
Yeah. I think a really clear example of this consumer power in action, you probably remember this, is when all those supermarkets switched from those single-use plastic bags to reusable ones.
Oh, yeah.
That wasn't something they just decided to do out of the goodness of their hearts.
No.
It was a direct response to all that pressure from shoppers.
Absolutely. That collective voice can really drive change.
Amazing.
And it's not just individual consumers acting alone.
Okay, so there's more.
We're also seeing a huge impact from those consumer groups.
Right.
Who are organized and ready to launch those big public campaigns.
Yeah.
Holding businesses accountable for actions that they see as unethical or irresponsible.
Yeah.
And these campaigns can be incredibly effective.
I bet.
Shaping public perception, really compelling businesses to change their ways.
And we've got a perfect example of this, right?
Yes.
This PETA campaign against Canada Goose.
Right, a classic example.
For years, they used all sorts of tactics, right?
They did.
Exposés, celebrity endorsements, even legal battle.
The whole 9 yards.
All focused on Canada Goose's use of fur and goose feathers.
Uh-huh.
And what happened?
Well, Canada Goose finally announced they'd stop using them.
Wow, so it really worked.
It did. But it wasn't just about the pressure itself. It was the sustained nature of it.
Yeah.
All those different methods that they used.
So it was a multifaceted approach.
It was. And even after Canada Goose made that announcement,
Uh-huh.
it wasn't over.
Okay.
PETA then shifted their focus to the ethical sourcing of feathers.
Interesting.
It shows that consumer advocacy continues, even after a big win.
So they're keeping the pressure on.
Exactly.
It's amazing how much businesses need to pay attention to this.
They really do.
And it's not just about dodging bad press.
No, it's bigger than that.
A lot of businesses are changing how they do things to line up with these expectations
They're adapting.
and to contribute to being more sustainable.
Right.
Like, a good example of this is Virgin Australia's carbon offset program.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
They actually calculate the emissions for each flight,
That's pretty impressive.
and then they invest in preserving forests in Tasmania.
So they're putting their money where their mouth is?
They're taking concrete steps.
Yeah, they're making sustainability part of how they do business.
It's pretty cool. Yeah. Now, this consumer-driven pressure isn't just about the environment.
No, it goes further.
Our sources also talk about how it's really shaken up the fast food industry.
Oh, absolutely.
People want healthier options.
They do.
Lower sugar, less salt, less fat.
Right.
They want things free from allergens and artificial colors and flavors.
And it's gone mainstream.
Yeah, it's not just a niche thing anymore.
It's not just the health food stores.
Right.
Even giants like McDonald's have had to adapt,
It's amazing.
offer healthier choices to stay in the game,
To stay relevant.
to stay competitive.
It's incredible. And speaking of adapting, there's a really interesting example in our sources.
Uh-huh.
This company called Oliver's Real Food.
I've heard of them.
The founder, Jason Gunn, he saw this gap in the market, right?
Yeah.
For healthy food on the go.
And she went for it.
He decided to create his own solution.
He's like, I'll do it myself.
And get this, he put his first store right next to a McDonald's in Wyong, New South Wales.
Talk about bold.
That's knowing your target audience.
That's a statement.
And guess what? It paid off.
Did.
Oliver's has grown to over 20 locations across New South Wales, Victoria, and Queensland.
Wow.
And they've got plans for even more.
That's incredible.
It just shows you the power of understanding what consumers need and delivering it.
You got it. So we've seen how powerful customers are.
Yeah.
But let's shift gears a bit and look at the other big player,
Okay.
competitors.
All right, competitors. Now, our sources define them pretty simply.
Yeah,
Other businesses or individuals offering similar goods or services to yours.
straightforward.
Seems pretty straightforward.
But you can't underestimate them.
No.
Knowing who they are and what they're up to is critical.
Yeah, you're not operating in a vacuum.
You're not alone out there.
Absolutely. And it's not enough to just know who your competitors are right now.
No, it's a moving target.
You got to have your eyes peeled for new ones entering the market.
Always be on the lookout.
Because things change all the time.
Yeah.
New technologies, new regulations, new ideas.
All the time.
Any of those things can lead to new competition popping up.
Absolutely.
And it's not a spectator sport either.
You got to be in the game.
You have to react when your competitors make moves.
You have to respond.
And there's a really good example of this in the sources, right?
Mm-hmm.
Those free-to-air commercial TV networks
Yeah, I remember.
facing the rise of streaming services.
Netflix. Binge.
Exactly. They couldn't just sit back and ignore it.
No, they had to adapt.
They had to adapt to this huge shift in how people were watching TV.
And they tried.
They did, right.
Foxtel launched Presto, even though it didn't last.
Right, but they tried something new.
They did.
And Nine Entertainment partnered with Fairfax Media to start Stan.
So they found a way to offer that on-demand content that people wanted, meeting the competition head-on.
Head-on. Another example, and this is a more current one, is Wilson Parking Australia.
Okay.
They're competing with other parking providers, like Secure Parking and Interpark.
Right.
And it's interesting, even in something as basic as parking, there's this competition.
There's always competition.
To offer online booking systems, app-based parking solutions.
So it's not just about the parking space itself anymore.
Right, it's about the whole experience.
It's about the added value, the convenience.
The convenience.
Even in something as simple as parking, and they're finding ways to stand out.
So even when the core service is pretty similar, the competitive edge comes from those extra features, from being more efficient.
It's about enhancing the customer experience, making it better than the competition.
I see. So knowing who your competitors are actually pushes you to be better.
Absolutely. It's a built-in motivator.
To be more efficient, to keep innovating.
That's the pressure of competition.
Yeah, I get it. It's like a constant push to stay sharp.
It is, and it generally leads businesses in one of two directions.
Okay, what are those?
Either they focus on providing a high-quality product or service at the absolute lowest cost.
Okay, so being the cost leader.
Exactly. Or they go the other way and try to offer something truly superior.
So a premium product or service.
Something unique that justifies a higher price.
Interesting. Two different strategies.
But both are driven by competition.
And we've got a classic example of a company that completely disrupted an industry through competition.
Oh, yeah, Netflix.
Netflix. And the decline of Blockbuster is a cautionary tale, right?
It really is. A reminder of what can happen if you don't pay attention to the changing landscape.
What happened there?
Well, Netflix really found that sweet spot. They offered convenience, right? Stream anytime, anywhere.
Right.
Huge library of content, high quality stuff.
People love that.
And all for a pretty low price.
It was a game changer.
It was. Appealed to a massive audience.
It did.
They've gone global now. Hundreds of millions of subscribers.
Wow.
Billions in revenue.
Unbelievable.
They completely changed how we watch TV and movies.
And you know what's crazy?
What's that?
Blockbuster actually had the chance to buy Netflix back in 2000.
No way.
For $50 million.
You're kidding.
The Blockbuster CEO thought Netflix was just a small, niche thing.
He missed the boat.
He totally missed the boat.
That's a classic example of underestimating your competition.
Yeah, it's wild.
And failing to see how quickly things can change.
So you got to keep your finger on the pulse.
You got to know who your competitors are, what they're capable of, and what customers want.
Absolutely. So as we wrap up this deep dive, the takeaways are pretty clear.
They are crystal clear.
Understanding your customers is non-negotiable.
It's the foundation.
What they need, what they expect, including this growing focus on social responsibility.
All of that needs to be part of your plan.
And just as important, you have to know who you're up against.
Who's out there? Who's coming up?
Because ignoring either of these forces, customers or competitors,
that's risky business.
It's a recipe for disaster.
You could go under.
So if you're listening and you wanted a quick but thorough understanding of these core business principles,
I hope we delivered.
We hope this deep dive has given you that solid foundation.
It's the basics, but it's essential.
Absolutely. Understanding both your customers and your competitors is essential for any business. To not just thrive,
but to survive.
But to survive. To stay in the game.
That's the name of the game.
Now, thinking about everything we've discussed, this power of consumers and the constant pressure of competition,
it
makes you wonder, what's the biggest hurdle for new businesses trying to get off the ground today?
That's a tough world out there.
It is. Or how could a sudden change in what consumers want? Or a brand new competitor coming out of nowhere,
a disruptor,
completely shake up an industry that we think is stable?
It happens all the time.
It makes you think.
It really does.
Well, thanks for joining us for this deep dive.
It's been a pleasure.
Until our next exploration.
We'll see you then.